Well, welcome to Bromley, which is the epicentre of this country's climate controversy. ULEZ has now been rolled out, and it is coming to a town or a city near you, most likely, which is why over the course of this show I will be going to a variety of different places. Now, before I talk to the leader of the local council here for the political reaction, and before I talk to a renowned meteorologist for the climate side of things, I wanted to talk to an ordinary chap on the ground. Viewers will recognise this guy, Aidan, Magee, a Bromley resident. Now, what's the mood like on the ground when it comes to ULEZ?
Well, I've been talking to people about it, Patrick, for months now, and a lot of people locally didn't realise it was going to happen. They kind of felt that consultation would see an end to it, wouldn't actually come into being, but it's affecting their businesses big time. I spoke to a tree surgeon this morning. He said he can't do house-to-house visits anymore because his van's not compliant. That's going to cost him about £250 a month. I spoke to another lady this morning as well. She said that she can't do house-to-house visits to do care. For a 93-year-old lady, she's going to have to give it up. It's not worth her while anymore. I was in Chatterton Village, about a mile away from here earlier on, talking to friends of mine who run businesses, and they just simply can't do business anymore. They're worried about the footfall slackening off. There are problems with the parking meters as well because you can't use cash in them anymore. It seems as if Big Brother is watching. That's what they feel, okay. and they're worried about some of them are selling up. It's as serious as that, honestly. It
is as serious as that. Now, Sadiq Khan is absolutely adamant that this will help millions of people get cleaner air, and we need it to meet our obligations for things like net zero. But I wanted to talk to a local business owner here. Introduce yourself. What's your name?
Ross.
Ross. And Ross, you have this ice cream store here. And just quickly, Ross, how do you fear that ULEZ is going to affect your business?
Well, by people not coming to the town, but from outside the area. They got to pay £12.50 a day, so it costs money just to come around. So I think people, we'll lose in business.
And do you think that Bromley has a problem with dirty air at the moment? Does it need fixing?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
We are okay the way we are. It's been for many years, so we don't have any problem. To me, all this ULEZ, ultra ULEZ, is all about revenue and no health.
And this is an important theme here, OK? Just before I get the political reaction and the environmental reaction, it is a common view here that ULEZ is not actually really about the environment. They say, like our chap Roz there, that maybe this is just about a way of increasing revenue for things like transport for London, etc. So this is a perfect opportunity for me to bring in my two chaps here. I have Colin Smith, who's the leader of Bromley Council.
I do.
And I have Jim Dale as well, who is a meteorologist and a regular. I'll start with you, Jim, because we've had a couple of quite contrary views to ULEZ there. People saying that the science doesn't necessarily justify the cost, does it?
Yes, it does. Anybody who suggests that car engines, vehicle engines pushing out nitrogen dioxide, carbon monoxide isn't measurable and isn't damaging to health lives in cloud cuckoo land, to be frank with you. So very much this is the right step. It's small steps. It's a small step for Greater London, probably a greater step for London as a whole in terms of the signature that it sends out in terms of trying to get to a cleaner environment for everyone. We're here in a pedestrian area, which is nice, better than the traffic running past you and all the rest of it. So there, small steps going in the right direction. I'm not saying the implementation was perfectly angled. I think that can be still questioned, but nonetheless, this is what we need, not just from an environment point of view, but also from a health point of view and a small degree of climate change. It's going in the right direction, which is why I support it.
Just quickly, before I move on from you then, you said a small degree of climate change,
yeah.
But for a lot of people here who are worried about going out of business, who are struggling to get new vans, for them, that's a massive impact on their lives,
You just had an interview with an ice cream man and you were talking about ULEZ. I'll tell you the biggest thing that affects the ice cream man. It's the weather. It's the weather per se. So we can look past ULEZ and say, OK, that might be one or two problems here or there. I understand it. It's not, any big change is not going to take in everybody and do good for everybody. There will always be casualties to a certain degree.
I'll come back to you. Colin, leader of Bromley Council, are you and is your area and are your people some of the casualties of this green agenda?
Yeah, very much so, Pat. The whole of Outer London is. This is a tax raid on the suburbs, pure and simple. Outer London's air is cleaner than, Bromley's air is cleaner than every single borough within the existing ULEZ zone and infinitely cleaner than the Mayor's Tube network, which is foul, fetid and horrible. So if this was about health, why would you start with the cleanest air rather than clearing up the foul air in central London?
Well, can we respond to that then? Why would we start with the clean air around here and not more of the fetid air around central London and other big cities as well?
Well, the point is that central London, with its ULEZ for the last several months, if not years, they've got great improvements. Not perfect, but you've got to be inclusive here. You can't say, oh, this area, that area. Why? Because the weather actually takes the pollution from one to the next. So you've got to include everybody in that.
OK, you've used the word inclusivity there. The word on the street that I'm getting quite regularly here, and I'll go to you on this, Colin, is that actually this is going to affect the poorest in society the most.
Yeah, it is. It's going to affect local businesses. You've heard from a local business already. This is going to affect local jobs, particularly low-paid jobs, and it's going to affect vital care networks. And what do I mean by that? I mean, if you're a mum, an old dad living in Beckenham, you've got a son or daughter, uncle or aunt living in Swanley, quite literally they're not going to be able to get across to look after them as often as they are at the moment because they simply can't afford it. So inclusivity is great to a point, but why would a Zone 1 mayor punish Zone 6, which he clearly doesn't understand, when the air here is cleaner than on his tube network? That's the obvious place to start.
It's going to be a problem for people who can't get to, say, their job as a nurse. It's going to cost them an extra £12.50 a day, for example. That might turn them off here. You see some of the poorer people in society might not be able to actually drive to work, etc. That could lead to, dare I say it, more deaths in the short term than climate change.
No, I tend to disagree. 90% of the population are covered. There's no problem. They can drive their cars. They're not banned.
Okay. On that, you're shaking your head. Why?
No, it's not 90%. The mayor's mismanaged and misrepresented that figure. We believe the number is nearer to 75% of the cars are. He measured them one day on the camera network on the red routes. He didn't cover anything off the red routes, the borough roads, so he simply can't know how many cars aren't compliant.
You mentioned the implementation there, Jim, and I think this is a key point that's just been raised by the leader of the council. Another key point would be the actual science behind it. I know that you say, which is pretty obvious, look, if you've got cars pumping filth out of their backsides, then yeah, that is going to have an impact on the climate. And I do understand that, and I think everybody else would. But there are concerns that Sadiq Khan paid quite a lot of money, about £800,000, to Imperial London to come up with a study which tried to back up his reasons for implementing ULEZ. And then he wasn't happy with the results of that study, and so then Imperial said they weren't going to do anything more. Has he tried to rig the deck to get what he wants, which is, for a lot of people think, just a tax hike?
No, I think you've got to. I think you've just got to look at this generally, common sense rules, and I think this is what it's all about. You mentioned the reasons and rhymes. We all accept that stuff coming out of the back of engines isn't going to be great for your health. So look, if there's a study there on a study there, academics will argue with each other. That's a normal process. You get different results at different times. Funny enough, depending on what the weather's doing half the time. So look, I just think we have to look at this from a general point of view. Do we want less polluting vehicles on the road? The answer is yes.
Now, I've got to ask you, as a Conservative leader of a local council, OK, you would have thought that you'd be quite big on law and order. Now, one of the other key aspects that we've seen in Bromley and other areas like it is massive levels of vandalism. Today, just today, actually, we saw a load of the ULEZ cameras spray painted red, covered up. We've also had the signs vandalised. We've had some cameras hacked down. Now, you're against ULEZ, but are you also against that level of crime?
No politician will condone law breaking. It's wrong. People shouldn't do it. The only point I would make is that people like me have been warning anyone that would listen, and the mayor in particular, for months and months and months and months about a simmering anger and a simmering fright out there on the streets. And that's what's driving it. People aren't behaving rationally because they're angry and because they're frightened. And we were discussing briefly the poll tax situation, the similarities between that and this, that level of anger. And I really hope it doesn't come to that, but people shouldn't underestimate how angry people are.
OK, and I'm just going to return to our ice cream salesman here before I go back to this debate. I think you were just listening in a little bit there. Whose side are you on then, really? So we've got one chap over here who's saying that, look, cars, they're bad, they need to be stopped a little bit, and frankly, people are going to die and their health is going to be impacted on. You've got another chap there saying that actually this isn't really about the environment at all, and he said that people are angry. What are you?
Yeah, I'm on his side. Yeah, the people that are, everybody are angry. I mean, into this matter, I already said it's about the revenue because If people pay the congestion charge, the fees, that is fine. So it's not about health. It's about.
Let me come to Jim on that then. Jim, come here, because what our chap is saying, and this is a regular thing on the streets here, is actually, hang on a minute, how can this be about the climate? If you can pay £12.50, you can still drive around all day to your heart's content in a diesel. Really, if they cared about the climate, what they'd be doing is stopping cars full stop.
I think we need to do a lot more with the climate. But look, there's an old term out there, we're probably near the shop somewhere around here, every little helps. We have to move in that direction. It's not just about the climate. This is primarily about the environment and about health.
Tell him, if that's okay, why his business should suffer as a result of the environment.
Well, let me say, your business is far more dependent on what's up there, the weather and how that operates.
Maybe 4 or 5 months in the summer, but in the winter I do different business here.
No, that's fair, but we're talking about your ice cream business, and you know full well June was a tremendous month for you because we had record temperatures, the sunshine. Yeah. That's a bit of climate change. So I guess we could call you a positivity of climate change.
We're not talking about my business. We're talking about the ULEZ. We're talking about the millions of people that suffer the consequences because they are stressful life.
Well, you're saying that, but I think we know in absolute terms that the public in London, in the polls, most of the majority are in favour.
Now, hang on, Colin, I can see you shaking your head right here. Does Jim have a point? Because he can point to opinion polls, and hey, we live in a democracy, he can point to opinion polls and say, aren't most people in favour of ULEZ?
Well, you can point to dodgy consultations as well, can't you? You know, we all know the outcome of that one, and that got completely ignored. No, I do accept that opinion polls will change borough by borough, and I do accept that boroughs with fewer cars will probably be more partial. But I guarantee you, if you walk down this high street, at least 7 out of 10 people will be against it.
OK, all right. Well, look, what we're going to do is we're going to leave it here for now. Now, this is actually a massive issue politically. So when I come back, what I'm going to be talking about is the general political reaction in London. But I'm also going to be taking you to Birmingham, because Birmingham has got a low emission zone as well. And like we keep saying, this is coming to a town or a city somewhere near you. But I want to hear from you on this as well. If you're not just around the London area, get in touch, gbviews@gbnews.com. Let us know what you think. I'm going to be back in just a tick. Don't you dare move.